Hello and welcome back. Where have you been? I haven't seen you in a long time. But anyway, welcome back. Glad to have you back. If this is your first time to visit my channel, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And so please consider subscribing to my channel. And that way you'll be able to get content concerning hiking and backpacking, through hiking, car camping, just the outdoors in general. And so I'd appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to my channel. Now today I want to talk about the things that I changed on my through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail. And so stay tuned. Toward the end of my through hike of the PCT, I had decided that as soon as I got back and got settled back into, quote, normal life, I was going to start a series on my YouTube channel called Things I've Learned. I realized that the things that made my hike successful on the PCT were things that I had learned from other hikers who had done the PCT before and who were experienced hikers. And I learned from them by watching their YouTube videos and reading their blogs and whatever media that was out there concerning through hiking and backpacking in general. And so I thought that perhaps maybe when I got back home that I could share some of the things that I'd learned, not just from my through hike, but I've been hiking and backpacking for over 25 years. If you've not had a chance, be sure and check out my playlist on hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, 2,653.1 miles from Mexico to Canada through California, Oregon, Washington. Took me 5.5 months, 163 days to complete my through hike of the PCT. Also, if you've not had a chance, be sure and check out my playlist on things I've learned. Again, a lot of things that I learned not only on my PCT through hike, but things that I've learned from the last 25 years of backpacking. Now please, I am not presenting myself as an expert at all things backpacking and through hiking. I'm far from an expert, and I'm always learning new things. And by the way, that's the only way you're going to get better, is by learning new things, trying new things, and see what works and see what doesn't work. And so therefore, today I want to talk to you about some things that I changed on my through hike of the PCT. Some of these things I changed towards the end of my PCT hike, believe it or not, and others I changed towards the middle, and then there were some that I changed right at the very beginning when I realized that it just wasn't going to work. Now, before I started out on my through hike, I had pretty much dialed in all of my gear. I had done several shakedown hikes, preparation hikes, whatever you want to call it. But I'd been out for, 3-day hikes all the way up to a 5-day hike. In fact, right before I did the PCT, I did California Section K of the PCT from mainly around the Tahoe Lake area, just to see if I could do a section. And so I thought I had everything dialed in, but the thing about a through hike is, even though you think you have everything dialed in, there's always something for you to learn and to change out and to get better. And so, again, I'm not the expert. If these things don't work for you, then don't do it. But at least try it and you might like it. One of the things that I changed on my hike was my hiking pants. I started off with, I believe it was the REI brand of what they call conversion pants, where you zip off the legs if it gets too hot, or if it's not cold enough to have those pants on. And that was one of the things that I changed, was the hiking pants that I wore. I thought it'd be a great idea to have a pair of pants that if it got too hot, I could zip off the legs and carry them in my backpack. But one thing I found out very early on is it doesn't really get that cold on the PCT. I found myself mainly hiking with the pants lower part zipped off and just wearing the shorts. On a through hike, your main emphasis is on how light your gear is and how light you can get your gear, and also minimalism. How minimalistic can I get and not carry any more than you have to carry? And so I was finding myself carrying the bottom parts of these hiking conversion pants, and I was just carrying them from place to place. And so I thought there's got to be something better. And so I discovered that many of the through hikers were using running shorts. Didn't matter what brand, Walmart brand or expensive brands like Nike or Under Armour or Adidas or whatever, but they used running shorts. And so I bought some running shorts and started using them, and really liked them. Even in the Sierras or Sierra, I would wear the running shorts, and when it got cold, I would put my rain pants on, and from hiking and everything, the heat that was generated by me hiking would warm my legs up. And so I really didn't need, and then when it got a little bit too warm, then I would take the rain pants off. And then also in the vein of minimalism, I bought some running shorts that had the liners in them, so I didn't have to carry any underwear. And again, when you go through hiking, don't carry any more than you have to, because every ounce counts. Another thing that I changed on my through hike was my hat. Now, I have to wear a hat because I am follically challenged on top of my head. And so I've got to wear something to protect my head in that bald spot up there, or otherwise I'm going to get blistered. Now you say, well, why didn't you wear sunscreen? Well, I wore sunscreen and a hat. But I started my through hike out with a wide brim hat, and believe it or not, the first night at Hauser Creek, I lost it, forgot it, or whatever. And luckily I had another hat with me, an outdoor research hat. And so I just wore that for a pretty good while. When I was hiking through the Mojave Desert from Tehachapi to Ridgecrest, I left my hat outside my tent, and I don't know, a squirrel or I don't know what it was, but something during the middle of the night came and just chewed the fire out of my hat. And so it really messed it up, put several holes in it. So I knew I had to get another hat. So the next hat that I got and that I finished the PCT with, and I'm wearing right now, was what's called a trucker's hat. And the reason I like this hat is because it's ventilated on the top. My head was getting pretty hot, especially during the in the Mojave Desert, and it was just keeping all that heat within my, within the hat on my head, and so it was contributing to the heat exhaustion that I had. And so I got this trucker's hat with ventilation on the top of it, and it lets the air out, and it was so much cooler, and but also protected my head as well. The next thing that I changed out was pretty major, and it had to do with being minimalistic and also lightweight, and that was my tent. I started out my through hike with a big Agnes Fly Creek UL2 tent. Even the name sounds kind of heavy, doesn't it? But I started off with the Fly Creek, and then maybe halfway through, maybe less than that, I think after about 700 miles or so, I switched to the Zpacks Duplex tent. Like I said before, when I started my through hike, I had done several practice hikes, and thought I had my gear all dialed in, and I thought this big Agnes tent was one of the lightest tents, and it is one of the lightest tents that they make on the market as far as a freestanding tent is concerned. But I wanted to go more minimalistic and also lightweight. And so I switched the Fly Creek out for the Zpacks Duplex tent. The Fly Creek had the main body, the rain fly, and the poles, and also I think it also had the footprint. And so all in all, it was pretty heavy. But not only that, it had so many components to it that I had to keep up with. Whereas the Zpacks Duplex was a tent, and that was it. You use your trekking poles, 4 poles, and I was already carrying my trekking poles. And so I could use my trekking poles for a dual purpose. So not only with this change of tents did I lighten my pack, but it also caused me to not carry as many components as I had to. Another thing that I changed on my through hike was my hiking schedule. When I first started my through hike, I was just so excited about being out and outdoors and being with other hikers and things like that. And so I was finding myself at my campsite, staying in the tent a little bit longer than I needed to, and cooking breakfast, and firing up the stove and making coffee. Not 1 cup, but 2 cups. Got to have 2 cups. And warming up water to hydrate your oatmeal. So I found myself getting out of camp later and later, and watching other hikers going further and further down the trail than I was. Now, I'm not the fastest hiker in the world. In fact, I'm not even the fastest hiker in this county. But I found out something. In fact, you can always learn something, as I've said, from somebody else. And so I was talking to this one guy, and he said, Rev, I'm not a fast hiker either, but I learned something. I learned that it's not how fast you go, but how far you go. And I said, that sounds pretty good. I discovered that hikers that were putting in a lot of miles were not hiking faster, but they were getting up early and staying on the trail longer. And so I decided to start switching up my schedule and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then getting on the trail by 5 o'clock. I found that if I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I would get up before the sun came up, and so I could be on the trail and watch the sun come up. And you talk about a beautiful view in the morning of the sun coming up over the mountains. It's worth getting up that early. Now, I'm an old dude, so I need my beauty sleep, okay? But I found that if I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I had to get my 8 hours of sleep somehow. And so I figured out that if I got to camp at about 6 o'clock, first of all, I would get there before everybody else did, because most people kind of drug in after the sun had come down. But I would get the best camping spots at a camping place, and I could set my tent up and eat and be in bed by 8 o'clock. And so if I went to bed at 8 and then got up at 4, that would give me 8 hours worth of sleep. And so I sat down and figured out that if you spent from 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the afternoon on the trail, you could put in some large miles. And of course, that's not counting lunch breaks and just regular breaks or breaks to lower your base weight. And so if you spent that much time on trail, you could get in a lot of miles. So you don't have to hike faster, just hike longer. So with this new schedule, I went from doing from 15 to 18, 19 miles per day to going from 25 to 30 miles a day. Only hit 30 miles just a couple of times on my trek. But I put in a lot more miles with the schedule than I did with the lightened schedule, I guess. Another thing that I changed on my Thruhike was my trekking poles. Now, I didn't change the brand of the trekking poles or anything like that. What I did is I went from 1 pole to 2 poles. In fact, when I started out, I was going to start out not carrying any trekking poles at all. But I thought, to balance myself going over a log or going through a stream or something like that, I probably need something to balance, to keep from falling in the river or falling off the log or whatever. And so I did carry 1 at the very first. So when I switched from the Big Agnes Fly Creek tent to the Zpacks Duplex tent, I had to have 2 trekking poles in order to set up my tent. And so I got my wife to send me the other trekking pole. And so I started using 2 trekking poles instead of 1. Now, I think once you learn to use trekking poles, you'll want to carry 2 because you can use them to propel yourself forward and save your knees. And by the way, you don't have to be old to have bad knees, but you can propel yourself forwards and save the wear and tear on your knees and your legs and stuff like that. And it does make a difference. Try it. I've got some other things that I changed out on my Pacific Crest Trail Thruhike. And so I'm going to stop right here and just continue the next time talking about other things that I swapped out or I changed out. And so if you have not subscribed to my channel, please be sure and do so. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And hopefully these tips and things that I've learned, and again, I'm not the expert, but the things I've learned maybe will help you out in whatever stage of backpacking, camping, car camping, through hiking that you're in. So hopefully these will help you out. If you have any questions, please be sure and leave those questions or comments down in the comment section below. And I will try to get to those as soon as I can. And if you like this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. And until then, I will see you down the trail.